Hey, I'm Allison, and this is Realistically Consistent, where we talk about how to build sustainable fitness, nutrition, and mindset habits that actually last even as a busy mom. I'm here to help get you consistent, not perfect, and on your way to feeling like your best self. I'm so excited to start today's episode with you. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Realistically Consistent. I am so excited to have you here today. So, this episode is actually going to be really brief compared to the last few episodes I have recorded. So, if you find that you have extra time and you haven't listened to last week's episode yet, I highly, highly encourage you to go back and start listening to it because even though it is a little bit longer, it is so worth it. It is where I had the endo coach, Sam, on as a guest, and we talked all about women's hormones and some of the misconceptions that we have around our hormones and weight loss and all of those things. And it is truly just one of my favorite episodes to date. So if you haven't given that a listen yet, highly suggest going back and listening to that. But today's episode is going to be about a really powerful mindset shift that has changed the way that I make decisions and has changed the way that so many of my clients make decisions as well. So I'm so excited to share this with you today. So really quick before I dive into it, I've talked about this before, but we know that honestly, progress comes from the millions of tiny decisions that we make every single day, right? I think when we decide that we're ready to make a change, it usually comes from a really strong, powerful decision coming from like, okay, I can't live like this anymore. I know that that's been true for me. And I know that that's been true for so many of the other moms that I work with. But sometimes that change can just be kind of quiet. And some of those first steps can be filled with fear and saying, I really want to make this change, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to stick to it. And that's one of the reasons that we have this podcast called Realistically Consistent, because that consistency is something that can be so tough to, stick with, right? That's why it's called consistency. But at the same time, I think as a society, we're starting to recognize that truly that's the only way that progress, one, comes, and two, sticks around is from finding that consistency that works for you. And not only being consistent, but also recognizing that consistency doesn't necessarily mean doing the exact same thing every single day. It means being flexible, going with the ebbs and flows, and recognizing that you're going to be faced with tons and tons of tiny decisions every single day that are going to add up to create that consistency, right? Because every single day does look a little bit different, especially as a mom. It can look a lot of bit different. You've got different circumstances coming at you all the time that are going to put different challenges in front of you, that are going to put different temptations in front of you. And we have to be able to go along with those challenges and adapt our decision making to meet our needs while still fitting in the parameters that these different challenges now have to offer us, right? And so this mindset shift that changed everything really goes along with that. And so I'm going to get into a few examples, but the mindset, what I call this is future thinking. And so I use future thinking to help me make my decision in that moment. So every time I recognize that I am faced with a choice to, for example, eat my own cup of ice cream when going out with my family or, having a few bites of theirs. If I'm faced with getting my own cup of ice cream and finishing the whole thing or putting the lid on and finishing the rest later. If I'm faced with, again, I have such a sweet tooth, so this is why I'm using so many like dessert examples. But even if I'm faced at a restaurant with, oh, do you want to order dessert? And saying no or yes, because I'm going to be totally honest with you. There are times where I say yes and I don't regret it at all. And a lot of this comes off of future thinking. And so a couple other examples might be um, going for that walk during my lunch or staying in to work on something else or finish something that I was already working on, to hop on my walking pad for 10 extra minutes right after the kids go to bed, or sitting down on the couch to watch an extra 10 minutes of Netflix, or sitting down on Sunday morning to plan out the week, or sitting down to read more of my book. I mean, we are faced with so many big decisions, micro decisions. All of it adds up to, are you being consistent? And so when I'm faced with these choices, what I'll like to do if I feel that kind of tug in my head where it's like, "Mm, what's the best decision here?" Sometimes we kind of stop at like, I know I shouldn't, but that's going back to one of the previous episodes that we've talked about before where you're shitting all over yourself. Um, Sometimes we just stop there and it's like, well, I know I should, but anyways, taking it a step farther, put yourself in those shoes for what would happen if you make one decision or the other. Okay. So, for example, your alarm's going off super early in the morning. Okay. I do this quite frequently, actually. I envision myself pressing snooze and finally crawling out of bed 20 minutes later. And I can literally feel the emotions in that moment because I felt them before, because I've made that choice before of that regret and disappointment. And now I'm going to be rushed. And now I'm just, kind of frustrated that I didn't just get myself out of bed and I ran out of time to do all these things. Right. And so I would regret hitting snooze and peeling myself out of bed later versus the emotions of, I've been successful with this before. I know that I can do it. I'm not going to hit snooze. I'm going to get up and go. And I can feel the emotions of pride and success and having that extra time and feeling relieved and feeling so glad that I made that choice for myself. And so when I put myself in this future thinking and picture myself in both scenarios, it makes it so much easier for me to choose the one where it's like, okay, I don't want to feel regret and disappointment. I want to feel pride and happiness and not rushed, right? And so that makes that decision so much easier. Or eating the extra slice of cake at the birthday party. Okay, do I need this? Really? Okay, let me picture myself 10 minutes from now. I've eaten the cake. How do I feel? Ugh, I feel bloated. I feel gross. I feel regret. I'm going to feel that. So I can now make that decision actually so much easier because I put myself in my shoes in 15, 20 minutes from now, having eaten the cake. And it's like, gosh, you know what? That actually really wasn't worth it, right? Maybe it was worth it for the 5 minutes that it tasted really good, but for the 2 hours after where I feel more bloated and regretful and all of those things, not worth it, right? Put yourself in the future for whatever choice that you're making. Okay. I'm trying to think of another example. So maybe it is Sunday and you usually do your meal planning on Sunday, but gosh, you're in the middle of a really great book and you don't want to get up and go plan. You don't want to go grocery shopping. It's such a beautiful, gorgeous day outside. You just don't want to take the time to do that. There are two things that we can do here. We can future think and take a look at our week. And again, this is something that I've done often. And I'll think to myself, gosh, you know what? Today's such a beautiful day and tomorrow's not going to be that nice. And you know what? We don't have anything going on after school tomorrow. I could squeeze in a grocery run tomorrow, like right after school or whatever time makes sense, right? And I'll make that choice and say, you know what? It's not worth it for me to sit down and do this on Sunday. Maybe it'll be slightly more inconvenient tomorrow, but I'm going to make this choice right now so that I can enjoy my day and be at peace with it. Okay. And that's the kicker here is that sometimes we make these choices and we still feel regret on Monday where you're like, gosh, I wish I would have done that. And that's where the future thinking is going to help you here because maybe you will get to Monday and think, gosh, I wish just still would have taken an hour. Even though it was really nice outside, I wish I would have taken an hour to go to the grocery store because this right here is a pain in the butt. Log that in the back of your mind for next time that you're faced with this decision so that you can pull that up when you're future thinking and think, gosh, no matter how nice the weather was or what we were doing, I still hate trying to figure this out on Monday. Okay. Or again, like I've done before, make a compromise. I'm not one to usually do a grocery order, but I'm also not above it. If that's what makes more sense for me, and I made that choice in the moment on a Sunday to enjoy the day with my family, to enjoy the weather, to stay outside and to skip planning and grocery shopping, I'm going to intentionally then carve out extra time on Monday to do what I normally might do on a Sunday. Chop the veggies, shred the chicken, grill the chicken, whatever. Maybe I'm saving myself time by doing a grocery order, something that's out of the norm for me, but I'm going to do it because you know what? Being with my family on Sunday was worth it. And so when Monday does roll around and maybe it's slightly more inconvenient, I can take a deep breath and say, you know what? Maybe this is more inconvenient, but gosh, it's worth it. because yesterday was a beautiful day. And I think that that's the last piece to this future thinking is finding peace with the decision that you're making. You made those decisions intentionally. So even if it makes something else a little more convenient, or even if you decided to eat the treat and you feel a little bit more bloated, you can still say, I made this decision intentionally. Gosh, that dessert was really good. It was worth it. I'm not going to make this decision every single time, but I'm at peace with my choice. And I think that that is the last, piece of it is getting rid of whatever guilt that we feel and getting rid of that I should have, I shouldn't have, because you're making a really intentional decision based on what's best for you in the moment, but also what's best for you in the future because of the choice that you made. Was it setting you up for the most success in the future, right? Whether it was the quote wrong thing or right thing, you know, by outside world views, it might have still been the right thing for you in that moment. Okay. So I'd love to, as always, hear from you. If you're watching this on YouTube, please leave me a comment with how you're incorporating this in your own life, or if this has changed your perspective on how to make decisions in your day. If you are listening to this on Apple or Spotify or whatever, as always, you can slide into my DMs on social if this is even something that we're still saying without being cringe. But I love to hear from you, and I'd love to hear if this podcast is resonating. And if you are looking for that extra support and saying, you know what, I keep trying, I keep putting myself out there, but I still feel like I can't reach my goals, maybe it's time for that additional support and accountability and a plan where someone is just telling you what to do that meets you where you're at and fits your current lifestyle. And that is what I do with my one-on-one coaching. And you can always apply for that on my website, AllisonHaleyFitness.com. I will link that in the show notes as well for you. And finally, as always, if this resonated with you, I highly encourage you to share this episode with a friend, because the more that we can share this and review it, the more that it has the chance to grow and reach other moms and hopefully be that help in their day to just reach other moms who could use this support as well. So thank you again so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to Realistically Consistent. If today's episode helped you, please hit subscribe and leave a quick rating, as it helps more moms find the show. You can visit AllisonHaleyFitness.com for more tools, tips, and ways to stay connected. And just as a quick reminder, I'm here to share general information and encouragement, but this podcast isn't meant to replace professional medical or health advice. Everyone's circumstances are different, so be sure to check in with your trusted healthcare provider before making any big changes. Thanks again for being here, and until next time, keep showing up for yourself one realistic step at a time.